Hi, I'm Leanne Harris, CEO for Keller Williams Portland Central, and today on Getting to Know Your Realtor, we have Jen Singer. Hi, Jen. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. It's going to be a fun interview today because we do know each other really well. I'm super excited to let all the cats out of the bag, ask the regular questions that we ask on the Getting to Know Your Realtor podcast, like things like how'd you get into, tell us your journey in real estate. But what do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about, Jen Singer?
What do I want to talk about, Jen Singer? I want to talk about, good question. I like talking about my journey. I like talking about how I got here, why I still do it.
Well, let's tell people the evidence of where we're at today. You're the #1 solo agent in our brokerage. You also are our productivity coach. The brokerage actually pays for our agents to go through your productivity coaching program so that they can learn how to do real estate at the high level that you're doing it. And what I know about you, and a lot of people don't really know this part, is that you had a very small database and you were still able to sell about 20 to 25% of that database year over year because of your relationships and your referrals. So how did you get there? So let's talk about, your journey.
Can I start at the very beginning for a second? Okay. Mm-hmm. So the very beginning of my story actually is I fell into real estate. I completely fell into real estate. My dad had a stroke and I missed some work. I was a high school teacher at the time, and the school didn't like that I was missing work. And on the last day of the school year, I walked in and resigned. I was tired of having a boss that didn't put my family first. So I walked in and resigned. And then I remember calling my parents and telling them I resigned, for them only to say, "What are you going to do now?" And I was like, "I don't know." Which never really worried my parents because I usually land on my feet. About 3 years before that, I had purchased a home. And when I purchased my home, I feel like I bought the wrong house. And I have a huge family. I love to entertain, and my house wouldn't let me do any of that. And I knew that the night that I closed on my house, and I sat on my living room floor with no furniture in there, and I sobbed over what a mistake I had just made, which got me irritated at the person who got me there, right? And so realizing that there has to be a better way and there have to be better questions, and somebody didn't take time to ask me the right questions. Thankfully, that little house turned into quite a good investment right next to Lewis
They
and Clark.
always are. I know, like, so many buyers have that buyer's remorse. That's what I was laughing about when you first said it. I was like, I hated my first house. It was like crooked. And yet, I don't know, we walked away with $100,000 out of that first house. It was like,
Yeah, so this was 2001, and I bought it for $137,000 next to Lewis and Clark. So didn't do so bad. So about that house, so that was where all of, I figured there had to be a better way. And so I actually thought that I would get into real estate until I figured out where my next thing was going to go. Probably the first 4 years that I was in real estate, I said, oh yeah, this is just a temporary job, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, 18 years later, here I am, not a temporary job. And the part that I love about it is still the same thing that got me into it, which is getting to know people and asking the right questions. And so hence comes the work by referral part of my business. I want each person to have an experience that's their own and their own journey. And that when they move in that first night, that there is laughter and excitement and not the tears that I had sitting on the living room floor. And I want people to be super educated on what they're buying and what that means for 30-year mortgages. When I bought my first house, I was 28, 29, and I remember signing the papers.
You're good with expectations, though. You manage the expectations, and what it sounds like to me is that your realtor did not say to you, Jen, I know that this isn't your perfect house. It is what you can afford right now and what we're getting offers accepted on, right? Or whatever. It was like the expectation wasn't explained. And to say, I know you're not going to love it. It's not going to fit you perfectly, but in 3 years, we're going to work together again and you're going to get to buy the dream house and we're probably going to make XYZ in the market. They didn't even.
And I would go back one more step. It was never, what do you want your house to do? It was never, what do you need your house to do? Because one simple question, even if they had had that conversation with me, it didn't take over the fact that I had a dining room that fit 4 people.
Yeah. Well, my family's bigger than that. Nobody asked me why I was buying my house when I remember my kids were little, and mine was, I never wanted my children to ever have to move schools. And I swear I never told a realtor that. I just
Isn't that
knew that.
crazy?
I know I moved like, I went to like 16 schools. You know, we went to Beaverton at the same time, didn't know each other, right? Beaverton High School. And then I went to Wilson High
Woo!
School. And I was like, I was everywhere, right? But like, I never told a real estate agent that. And the reason why I didn't is because I probably didn't realize that they should know that. And yeah, they didn't ask me the questions to pull that out of me. But mine was, I never want to have to move again.
Yeah, I mean, first question I ask people, why now?
Yeah.
And what do you need?
Yeah.
Right? And then the third question is always, how do you live? How do you see or how better question is, how do you see yourself living? Because sometimes the house we're in doesn't, that question doesn't answer it if we ask, how do you live versus how do you see yourself living?
Totally.
So yeah, it's all, for me, it's all about the questions. And I come back to that story almost every time I meet with a buyer in my own head, is that moment of, did you ask all the questions? Did you ask all the questions?
Yeah. So flash forward. So you then get into real estate. You realize that family comes first. When a parent has a stroke, you should be there as the daughter to be able to take care of your parents. And so you become a real estate agent, rocking it 18 years later. What else about your journey do you want your clients to know? And also other people that are considering getting into real estate. Or might be in real estate.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think the answer with all of it is a lot of hard work and it's a lot of things you don't see. Mm-hmm. And so I come back to all the time that it is simple to be a realtor, but it is not easy. And if you keep in mind that you're responsible for what somebody is spending their life savings, like the largest purchase they're ever making, if you are the steward of that, and if you are the real keeper of the person who understands that, even when maybe your clients don't, that's what makes successful agents. Because there's a lot of people, I think, who come in, they are very transactional. They want to sell a house. It's about how many houses, when can they close? It's funny, my clients say all the time that I talk them out of houses because I listen, like they're all in awe of the fancy kitchen that the house has, but they don't realize that the bedroom has a door that goes out to the backyard in like the room they're going to put their 2-year-old in. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? I like to talk about my sister. So if she ends up seeing this, don't be insulted. But when they bought their house, one of their houses, when her and her husband got married, the master bedroom was upstairs and there were bedrooms downstairs. And I was like, are you really going to put your kids downstairs when you have kids? And she's like, yeah, it'll be fine. And she's like, you don't have kids. And I was like, I know, but are you really going to sleep upstairs and put like little kids downstairs? She's like, it'll be fine. Fast forward like 4 years later, and she's like, so we need all the bedrooms on one floor. And I was like, oh, okay, let's take care of that. So I mean, it's about the listening to your clients. And I always tell them, I'm like, I'm going to throw back in your face everything you told me. In the end, you get to trump my decision, the decision, and you get to say, yes, it's the right one. But I'm going to bring all those things up. And so for me, that's always been where the path has taken over the last 18 years, what's in it for them and how, and I really try to teach that to agents in our program, is the whole thing of the agent who is looking at transactions is going to be in the business 3 years. The agent who builds relationships. I had clients at my wedding and my husband was like, who's that? And I was like, oh my gosh, I sold them the best house and we've kept in touch. And he's like, didn't know them. And he's like, who's that? And I was like, sold them my house, da da da. Then he got to your table and he was like, well, who are all these people?
He's like, make them go away. He's like, they are uninvited.
Who's the rowdy people in the corner?
I blame Heather Connors for that. I hope she listens to this.
I don't know. Jim Gillespie could be on that list.
I know, he totally is.
Brown on that list.
We did have a good time. You had a beautiful, beautiful wedding. And one of the things that I'll just go back to that really quick, because I think that a lot of people don't understand how to engage a database and how lucky your clients are, because I don't see this at that high of a level. So your wedding, absolutely fabulous, was done to the T. Like So much so that I'm pretty sure you called Mother Nature right before your wedding. You had beautiful lightning coming through the sky, yet it didn't rain. Like, I'm not sure what you did to exactly orchestrate that wedding.
The
but
thunder was the exclamation point on the vows. It was like, and so it is sealed.
Yeah, totally. Totally. It was the Kevin and Jen have like lit up the skies. I mean, literally, it could not have been more perfect. But I see these client events that you do and the way that you stay engaged. And we've been in this pandemic, and it's like, good night, man. I can't believe, like, how do we stay in touch? And here we are on Zoom, and we're all so feeling so distant, and yet your clients got to do things like painting classes and amazing things to keep people engaged. And you do this beautiful job of orchestrating engagement with your database.
It's, for full disclosure, it always surprises me that I'm like, would I have gone to my realtor's painting night? And then I realized that it's about this relationship that, like, my clients have babies and I'm sending them presents, and it's not like, for us, it's not a checklist of like, so-and-so had a baby, check, send present. It's like, ooh, what would that family like? Ooh, what's the baby's name? Okay, what do we need? And so for us, it's about just really taking the people that are in the database and treating people the way we'd want to be treated, right? And so every year we do our pie party. I hosted at my house. It's a crazy huge event, and COVID rolled around and we're like, I guess we're canceling the pie party. And I was like, there has to be a way. So on the rainiest day in November, we took our Sold by Jen tent and put it in a parking lot of a local business down the road and did drive-through pie pickup.
So cool.
And 100 families came to pick up pie. Meanwhile, don't ask Liz and I, because we were drenched. Torrential rain, like in the middle of it, like it's like bouncing off the ground onto us. But 100 families, and we got to talk to all of them. And it probably would have been easier if they were all going to the store, right? Like, especially now that Thanksgiving, everyone was home. Everyone had to go to the store. Instead of the one person who was cooking, we all had to cook. They could have picked up their own pie, but it's like, it's that connection. And they drove across town because I wanted to see them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's been very inspiring. I know that a lot of the agents in the brokerage have actually reached out to you. Even the top teams have reached out and said, hey, Jen, what are you doing for your database? Because they've seen what a great idea it was. So, okay, well, tell us 3 nuggets. Tell us the 3 nuggets that you want people to know, your clients, other agents, whatever.
Okay, so clients, I think, should know that they have a choice in realtors. And I think that you want to find somebody that we talk about know, like, and trust people, and those are people we want to work with. But find somebody that you feel heard you. And whether that's me or someone else, whatever it is, it's funny how people feel this obligation. And so you shop around for a doctor, pick somebody. It's not just the first person who's working an open house. Yeah. Pick somebody who hears you. That would be my first one for agents, or for clients. For agents, it's stick to the basics. I could hit myself over the head for how many times I tried to reinvent the wheel. The wheel works really well. Stick to the basics. And when you do that consistently, so I guess those are my 2 nuggets. When you stick to the basics consistently, results pour in. My last one I guess it's just for mankind, just treat people the way you want to be treated. I've said this a million times. My clients are like, do you ever door knock? Do you ever whatever? I don't do that. My house is my sanctuary, and please don't come knock on my door unless you're bringing me Starbucks. Unless you're bringing me my drink, like my friend did today. Don't come knock on my door. I'm home and this is my space. But there are other people, if you talk to them, they love talking to people when they knock on their door. Yeah. And so if you treat people the way you want to be treated, and you're going to find the people that you're meant to be with.
That's right. That's right. I love that. You find your tribe, right? Yeah. Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah. Like, I know, don't stop by my friend's house if I don't have something to bring them that's yummy and delicious.
Yeah. I definitely am a person that when people stop by my door, I want to talk to them because I like being sold too. I love being sold too. I like hearing people's sales pitches. It makes me laugh. Like, I don't necessarily like, I didn't say I was going to buy. I'm a savvy buyer. I just want to know. I want to know what you're up to. I want to know what's out there. And I also don't, so I do. I think that your vibe attracts your tribe and you get to do it whatever way you want. Anything else on those nuggets? I want all of it. I want to know everything about Jen Singer. One of the stories that's one of my favorite things about you is that you are also a very education-based person, and you definitely, education is an important part of who Jen Singer is. And when I first I had met you before, but I didn't know that there was this transition happening in your life. And then I met you again, and you had this giant belly with this pad of paper on top of it, which now is Lucy. And you were
people don't realize that I'm only 5 feet tall, so there was nowhere for baby to go but out.
You were like, what's going on? And I'm like, what do you got baking in there? I haven't seen you in a while.
Guess it's been 7 months.
So I love that you even you're at the top of your game, and you'll go find more education. You go and you find education to constantly be bringing back to your clients. And the way that I think about that is like a hairdresser that never goes and gets reinvented again. And you're like, dude, you can't give me Farrah Fawcett hair because that went out in the 70s, right? So what you're talking about too, when you say like the door knocking, I think that it's just that some people don't put education at the foundation of their business. And so they're operating in a really old school way that is no longer the way that real estate gets done. And you've got to do real estate in today's world, which is a technology world. We are a human-based world where the human and the technology come together. Like, I love Alexa, but I don't love Alexa if I just only could talk to her. I like Alexa because I'm having a dinner party and I can turn different music on. Right. It's technology and humans. And I think that what you've done is you've constantly embraced the newer ways of doing business.
It's a little terrifying. It's a little terrifying. I feel like I'm too old to keep jumping on whatever else is happening. But yeah, I mean, I think I sold 50 homes during a pandemic, which is ridiculous. And in one moment, I actually listened to one of Cody Gibson, he's one of the coaches for our Keller Williams, and in our office, and listened to a training that he did right at the beginning of COVID. And it was like, how fast are you going to pivot? And I remember staying up for like 3 nights straight of being like, how do I show houses without going into them? How do I, and so I think that that's the world, right? Like, you can say you don't want to shop on Amazon, but I didn't pick up a birthday present and you're telling me that can be here by tomorrow at 6 p.m. Fantastic, right? And so it's that whole thing of you can stay old school, or you can decide that you're going to meet people where they are. And I think it's ironic that if you ask people where they are, you're going to get a million different answers. So my dad's probably the fastest text messenger I know. My uncle still has a flip phone.
Are you kidding?
Right?
Like, I know your dad. What do you mean he's the best?
Oh my gosh. It's like,
awesome.
Hey, da-da-da. And he's like, blah, 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 blah.
That is awesome.
But his brother literally doesn't know how to send a text message, and he has no voicemail. And so, and I work with them and help them with some investing from properties and stuff. And it's like, okay, so I can text my dad and I need to call my uncle, and so it's this whole idea of you have to figure out where other people are and meet them there. I'm working with an 81-year-old client down in California to move up here to be closer to his family. He wants a condo. He doesn't Zoom, and I can't send RMLS listings. So how do you show him property that way? Right? Know. So you figure it out.
You send him you send him an iPhone, and then you FaceTime onto your computer.
I used a courier pigeon to take the video.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I know.
You meet people where they are.
My dad didn't get a cell phone until last year. He's only had a corded phone until last year. And so what I do now is I text my dad constantly because he can read them, but he can't respond to them. So I definitely do stuff to my dad where I'm like, I can't wait to see you Saturday when you're going to fix my deck. Yeah.
He's like,
He
guess
can't
I should be
respond.
there at noon.
So he's like, I think I have to go to Leanne's house on Saturday.
That's funny. No, my dad is a fast texter.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so back to real estate. If you were gonna, and just like about Jen and getting to know your realtor, what if you were gonna write a book? What would it be about?
It would be about taking chances and landing on your feet.
I like it. Any backstory to that?
I have a lot of things that I'm a fast one to jump and say, let's do it. And then about 3 days later, I go, oh my God, what did I do? But it works. And so I think it's about, I now have a 7-year-old and she has no fear, right? The fear comes from things we've taught them. I'll give you one super fast example, but I backpacked through Europe right after college. I hitchhiked my way through Germany and took trains and all these kind of things. I was traveling alone. Met this guy. This is not going where you think it's going. I met this guy. Anyway, apparently he lived in a castle in the middle of nowhere in Germany. And I left the train station with him and went and stayed in this castle. And it's super funny because I told this story to Lucy and she's like, you didn't know him, but he was a stranger. Why would you da-da-da? And I think about this amazing experience of meeting his family and literally being in like a medieval castle. And I would have, had I thought the way that I teach my daughter, I would have missed it all. And so I'm cautious about a balance between safety, obviously, but that whole thing of I don't want
Take chances.
I don't want to make someone think something scary that maybe it's not. And I don't want to be the one to tell you that you can't when maybe you could, maybe I couldn't, but maybe you really can.
Right.
And so I think it's about taking opportunities and landing on your feet.
I love that. I like it. I think that a lot of people need to learn how to fail too. And I don't think that you're afraid of failure. You just kind of.
No, I just tweak it so it didn't feel like failing. There's a whole bunch of failing that's happened over here, but it comes out successful.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you feel like it went wrong, you just learned something. Like that's a success. I love that part of it. I think that you are a person that requires people to come to the table that are around you. And I don't think your clients, because I think you go where your clients are, but the people that are around you, I think that you require them to show up at 100% if they're going to be in your world. And that's, I'll tell you, I got this advice not too long ago. They said, Leanne, not everybody wants to show up as 100% every day. And I said, that's fine. They don't have to. They just can't be in my world. And I think that you definitely are that same type of way. And we get a little bit of a reputation that it's like, well, they didn't, they weren't this way with me. And it's like, no, I just expect you to be on your game if you want to be in my world for that day.
I spent time playing small.
Yeah.
And I realized that I've never, obviously in the last 5 years, the quote that you are like the 5 people you spend the most time with has become more and more valid to me of my time's super limited. I mean, all of our time is, right. But yeah. And so when, we call it our Fab Five, my husband and I each we have our Fab Five, and it's like, who those people show up the way that you want them to, and the way they're going to pull you along with them to somewhere greater, at the same time when you're turning around and pulling them onto something else that's greater. And I'm a big believer of, show up. Yeah. And I love our Keller Williams thing of, how you show up here is how you show up everywhere. And I think that's more to what you're speaking of as well, because, I don't want someone who puts on their game face for this, but then at home is that, and so it's like, it's it's exhausting wanting 100% and going 100%. But I also think that those of us who do it, we play hard we work super hard so we can turn around and play super hard.
Yeah, well, you just said something, and I mean, we're in a very pivotal time in our country with seeing a female vice president for the first time, which is really exciting. Kamala.
Did you cry? Because I cried.
Yeah, I cried. And I think that you said something that's very interesting, is that you have played small in your life, and we play small for other people because it makes them uncomfortable, but it does not help them to get to that next level. And I think that as you have continued to play big, Jen, I've seen people peel away from you. I've seen people run away from you as you've continued to play big. And honestly, it didn't slow you down a single bit. And I watch those people and I watch you. And your life is the life that I would want to live every single day. And I think people become jealous of that, or they feel scared maybe to step into that role. But what I would say to every woman and to every real estate agent, I know I'm very pro woman, and I don't mean this not about the men. I just mean step up into who you are. Stop playing small for the people around you. Be like Jen. That's a new quote. Be like Jen.
The people I coach send me things that say WWJD.
Exactly.
Which cracks me up whenever they send it, because I'm like, well, I would. I mean, I would say along with that, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. Find the person who is, we should all be happy with the lives we're living. We should all have gratitude for what we have and how we do it. But find somebody who, gosh, if I could be there, right? And not in a envious, jealous way, but how do I get there?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've had coffee with people and just to ask them, what did you do? How did I get there? Because those of us, I think, that are successful, I'm not worried about you taking my clients. I'm not worried about you taking my business. Ask me what I'm due. I want to turn around and take the hand of the next person and pull them up. And I think that those of us that are those of us that are successful, or that other people view as successful, they want to do that. And I don't know.
You're a pay it forward person, which is what I like. You're like, I'll give it to you. You just have to go pay it forward to someone else. So I love that.
But I also don't pay, but I also don't, like, if you're not going to show up, I'm not going to give you anything.
Yeah, totally. I get that, man. I'm telling you, like, you got to do your side of the work too.
Yes.
I definitely get a little bit in trouble in my life because I'm like, is it fair? Is it equal? If it's not equal, I'm not participating. And I definitely get like that. So I hear you on that one. Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
No, but I want to know what your book would be.
Ooh. Well,
do you like how I turned that around on you?
Yes, I like it a lot, actually.
I'm interviewing Leanne now.
Yeah, so I'm in an interesting phase of my life, and I got a new house for the first time in 20 years. You know, I mean, I guess it's been about 20 years since I bought a house. Been in that same house with my kids. Like I had said, I'd never want my kids to have to move. And then now one's in New York again. He moved back to Portland for a second, but he's back in New York. So, you know, I got my own home office. I've never had a house this big. Okay.
Ooh,
so my own
yes.
home office. And what I would tell you to do is not only, so the book that I would write, and I don't know what the title of it would be, but maybe something along the lines of stop listening to the voice that's in your own head. You don't know what you don't know. And the voice that's in your head trying to solve something, whether that's going to work every day or a problem on your team or a financial issue, is the wrong voice, because you already got here. So what needs to get you there is probably somebody else that's gone before you. So
yeah, that's a good one.
So in my office, all over the walls are successful women. And it started with RGB, the notorious RGB. And it started with Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her giant picture, and it's super big on my wall. And she's the only one that's in color. And then the rest of them are all in black and whites. And it's everything from maybe successful movie stars to people that have invented things, but they're all women that have done things. And what I know is they didn't get there alone. And I think that they didn't listen to the voice that was in their head. They listened to someone maybe that was a step ahead of them. And then when they got to that level, they'd listen to a person that was a step ahead of them. And that's what I would do, is stop listening to the voice that's in your own head. That'd be my book.
That's awesome. It's that whole, I mean, it's that whole thing of like the women that went before us, right? Yeah. And it's that whole thing of like, there really isn't anything, there isn't anyone who's any better than any of us. Right? So it's like, if that's a possibility, why should it be someone else and not me?
Right. You deserve it. You deserve it. Well, Jen, I love that I got to interview you today. And you have been a person that has inspired me. You're a person I look up to. You're a person that I call when I'm running into difficulties. Your voice is actually one that lives in my head. And
WWJD.
Yeah, exactly. I call you when I run into walls and I ask you, what would you do in this situation? What do you think about this? You are even in a group text messaging. I'm sure that always makes you happy when I blow you up with 17 other people and say, can I get your opinion? But I really appreciate how you show up for the world. I appreciate that you don't allow people to come to the table with 50%, that you want that 100% out of the people around you. And yet, you really are a community involved person. You've given back to Lifeline for Hope year after year. You've done events for my nonprofit, and you are just one of the most fascinating, encouraging women that I know. So I want to thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I feel very flattered, but I also feel very much the same about you. So we see eye to eye. It's that 100% thing.
Totally. Thanks for joining us today on Getting to Know Your Realtor. This episode was brought to you by Lifeline for Hope. Be sure to catch us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, and be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much again for joining us today. Have a great day.